you every time after we do a show, you always sit me down, have me watch a video or a movie, something like that that interests you. And I have to say, I'm not a big movie guy at all whatsoever. But every movie you've had me watch, it's pretty good.
And
I'm not gonna lie.
Then
pretty good.
I'll tell you what, you are a gracious guest for not having ever, sighed or rolled your eyes or we're going to watch a movie or whatever. It's like, okay, you're over there, I'm cooking.
Yeah.
It's just kind of
couple.
a nice wind
We're
down
the perfect
to
couple.
Evening. Oh,
we
yeah,
really are.
Definitely.
So after we did the Andrew Tate video, which by the way you guys should check into that because it's a doozy.
Now Greta's arrested.
Beautiful. It's a classic.
It's getting weirder.
So you had me watch real quick on Netflix How to Become a Tyrant.
Mm-hmm.
And I know you talked about it because when you were sick with COVID for the 10th time, you sat at home and you watched it, binge watched it, and you were like, you finally understood how I saw the world. Like, you understood the shit that I was seeing, the stuff that I was telling you. You finally understood where I was coming from. But you had me watch the first episode. And I was like, whoa. And then the next day after work, I fucking binge watched it.
I was proud of him.
It's a 6 episode.
I thought it took you the weekend. You're like, no, whole one.
Yeah, one go.
One shot,
It's 30 minutes, 6 episodes, right? And they go through the top 6, I guess, modern day tyrants.
Yeah, I mean, within the last century, because I'm sure, obviously you go further back and talk about empires and dynasties that were, creating colonies around the world and trying to establish empire.
Right.
Whereas these individuals followed a system, the playbook, as they refer to. If you haven't watched it yet, it's still on Netflix, narrated by Peter Dinklage. I never watched Game of Thrones, but the little person. I can't say that word, because Stalin would have that censored. But there are 6 episodes, like you said, specifically focused on 6 different dictators or tyrants. And each one corresponds to a different area of this playbook of how to not only establish your rule and dominance over your people, but to keep that.
Right.
And not lose it.
Right.
So you've got Seize Power, which is Hitler's episode. That's the one that you and I had watched together.
Yeah.
Crush Your Rivals, featuring Saddam Hussein, the butcher of Baghdad himself. Number 3, Reign Through Terror, Idi Amin Dada in Uganda.
Which was one of my not only interesting but very fascinating. So I will get into that. Yeah.
Number 4, Controlling the Truth, Joseph Stalin. That one's my favorite because that one really shook me up. Number 5, Create a New Society, Muammar Gaddafi. And number 6, Rule Forever. Let's just call them the Kim Dynasty. Kim Il Sung, Kim Jong Il,
which is still
Kim
going
Jong
on today.
Still happening.
Yeah, which is
still happening. Yeah. So we watched the first episode together, the one about Hitler.
And there was really nothing new there because I'm a big, World War II guy, and Hitler, is, that's like the big mainstream one that pretty much everyone knew.
Right. So if it's someone really bad, you got to compare them here.
Right.
Like that's the standard.
The only interesting thing that I took from that, though, that I did not know, was that his mustache was actually a resemblance of the farmers, which were like the lower class back then, and he was trying to make himself like as one of the people.
Exactly.
So that's how the mustache thing even got created. So I thought that was very interesting.
It was weird. They show a picture of him, kind of like my mustache, but just like curled out like that.
Right.
And I'm kind of like, oh yeah, that's a pretty good look. And then he got to shave it down because his rise, and a lot of these remind me of things that have happened in recent years in the United States. The way that he rose to power, and a lot of you might disagree with this, but it resembles Donald Trump's rising to the presidency just because of the way he used the playbook. Now let me explain. Because when times are tough, there's an appeal to someone who steps up and says they'll fix it all. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So after World War I, Germany surrenders. Then they're in destitute. The Deutschmark is worth fuck all. Then the Great Depression happens. So now you have hyperinflation. You've got nothing good going on, and he believed in himself and what he thought, and he was holding in a lot of that rage because one of the first jobs that he had gotten after that was he was an Army intelligence officer on a job to observe a meeting of an anti-Semitic German right-wing group called the German Workers' Party. So he was supposed to just sit in there and observe, take notes, and report back because they were trying to snuff these guys out. It was like in a speakeasy. And instead, he delivers a speech. He gets so enraged, like while he's in there, he goes up on stage, like, no, exactly what I'm thinking. I'm going to say it because you guys are all kind of along these lines. Delivers a speech railing against the Jewish-led conspiracy holding the proud German people down. Content of his speeches were usually hatefulness, which really raises the question, like, if anyone proofreads one of Hitler's speeches before he gives it, is that a grammar Nazi? I'll see myself out. But think about Donald Trump when he was first, because that sells, outrage sells. So he got up there at first and he was just like, these folks from Mexico, they're bringing their drugs, they're bringing crime, rapists, some of which I feel are
was he
probably
wrong?
good people. But that's what I mean. Everyone else now is like, okay, yeah, okay, I feel the same way. It gives people permission to be themselves.
He had that similar energy.
That same, he's just like me. He's saying what I'm thinking, but people are too scared to say it. We want to make this great for the German people again. Deutschland. Make America great again.
Here's I think is a better analogy of putting them two together was that he gathered Germany as a national, it was like a national pride. Like let's bring Germany back to its glory days, sort of thing. And that's kind of like what Trump did, where he was like, hey, listen, we used to be on top, we fucking fell back, let's fucking get together, make America great again, and USA and all this other stuff. Let's rally as a country.
Remember how things used to be?
And there is something to that, because after 9/11, in a rare moment, for a short period of time, we were all Americans. There were no fucking, black, white, we were all Americans. And we all had a common
enemy. And part of the playbook.
Right. So, but yeah, I see kind of where you're going with it.
I mean, I'm not saying that, but I will say Trump knew what he was doing when he knew outrage sells. He's a businessman. He knows what's going to create
everyone does
the spark.
That.
I like an Andrew Tate
everyone
or
does
Kanye
that.
West. Let me say some outlandish shit because it puts eyeballs on you. How you said last week, people love to hate.
Right.
So you think the people watching CNN love it? Some of them do. A lot of them hate it and just want to see what their haters are saying about what they enjoy, just to get mad at it. But yes, Hitler tried to make himself the man of the people, like how you said with the toothbrush mustache, was the lower middle class men. That was the look.
Yeah.
And so it's like, look, I'm just like you. Always wore a military uniform. A lot of them did. I fought in the First World War, just like you. You and I were comrades. We were brothers. Not in blood, but in bond. You and I are part of the same.
You really don't see that in our government. It's all shirts and ties.
That's a lot of $billion suits.
I think Putin's really the only one that has any garb on, right? Sometimes,
he wears a suit.
Unless if he's shirtless on a horse. But I've seen no. Is it the there's somebody who's is it Jim Con-un, whatever the fuck his name is? Does he wear military garb?
I think he just wears that weird, I don't know if it's navy or all black, weird little two-thing buttons and just kind of one solid color pants.
But yeah, that was the thing, because up until I think the Ugandhi guy, I think, was the last one to always wear military
uniform. It's look, I came from the same pit that you guys did.
Stalin did that. At least the first Jim dynasty, the whatever. I have such trouble.
Oh, Kim Jong-il.
I have such trouble saying the fucking names because you're so stupid. But I mean, No, and then no, Gaddafi did start with it,
He
but
did.
then he got in the fucking sheets and turbans
He
and
was getting in touch with his roots, man.
and then silk
Getting in touch
cloths
with
and
his
I don't know
roots.
what the fuck he was doing, but
But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, Hitler branded his movement. I mean, what image? I mean, a swastika. If you were to walk in here and see a giant American flag, yeah, you wouldn't even bat an eye.
Right.
But if you walk in here and see a big swastika, whoa, it's jarring.
Yeah.
He knew how to brand a movement. Here's the iconography. Here's the symbol. We're all in military uniforms. A lot of their uniforms designed by Hugo Boss. So if you own some of that shit, just saying.
Whatever.
But he was a charmer. He was able to get all those people, even people of influence in England and in the United States. George Bernard Shaw, the Lindberghs, Walt Disney, for fuck's sake, and somebody else that's very popular in Florida that's not around anymore that we're not going to mention, but,
What was
love to shop there.
What was interesting was that, which you really don't see it nowadays. I mean, I guess you can maybe argue with the Ukraine war going on right now, but when World War II was going on, so many countries, different countries rallied together to stop Hitler, and surprisingly, Stalin actually assisted. And probably, if it wasn't for him towards the end,
if you went to France, you'd be speaking Deutsch.
Who knows what the outcome could have been? And it's funny, and as much as we don't really talk, what I got from that episode is I kind of felt like Stalin felt like Hitler was more of like the sexy number one guy, and so he was just like, oh, let me terminate him, so I'm the lone wolf here, sort of thing.
They both had that opinion about each other, actually, because when Hitler decided to make the move against the Soviets, they were supposed to take a certain town that was to the northwest. Well, he decides to divert his forces and send them southwest to a town called Stalingrad. It's got his surname in it. Let me rub his face in it. He loses the battle in both areas, and that was a turning point for the Red Army, because they knew how to fight in that kind of weather, whereas the Germans were a little more ill-equipped to deal with that kind of cold.
Yeah. So I didn't, besides the mustache, Hitler, I really didn't, I mean, it's kind of like repeat, but whatever. But I want to go to the Uganda guy. I don't know his name.
Idi Amin Dada.
Yeah, I'm gonna say the Uganda guy.
Idi Amin.
Because I'm gonna I might fuck up, say something bad. I'm just gonna say the Uganda guy. I'm sorry.
Well, before we do, just weird facts about Hitler, and then we'll close him.
Yeah,
we'll close him up. He was born on April 20th, 1889 in Austria. So all you stoners out there that light one up on 420, you're celebrating Hitler's birthday, weirdly. 42 recorded assassination plots against him, all failed. Wanted to be an artist. Painted landscapes, dog paintings. Even there was an episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia where Dee and Dennis, their grandfather, dies and leaves them a bunch of stuff. And they find old Nazi memorabilia and an SS uniform and a painting of a German Shepherd, which they come to find out was an original Hitler painting, which kind of takes us back to our phobia episode with the law of contagion. Like, you'd see that picture, like, oh, that's a little picture of a dog. You're like, yeah, it was done by Hitler. Oh, like, get it away. Never visited a concentration camp or an extermination camp at all. Although they did have a nice one where they would send, he invited the Red Cross when news of Nazi atrocities were traveling around. He invites the Red Cross, I'm going to mispronounce this horribly, Tyrant concentration camp, where they had sports, they got their own banks, look, these people are doing just fine.
It was like the interview.
Right. Now, if I was a Jew in that concentration camp at that time, you got to think, like, the information they don't want getting out at all, and they already see you as a piece of shit, so I'm sure that they were just like, oh, this is probably what all of them are like. I had no clue that the killings and the gas chambers and the starvation and everything else was going on.
And you would think that they would go to more than just one location.
Well, that's the only one that was listed that we could find.
No, I know, but I'm saying, like,
true. Maybe there was more than one.
No, well, there was more than one.
Nice one.
But I'm just
like
saying.
That?
But I'm just saying, like, like you don't inspect like one nuclear facility, right? You inspect all of them. So like, if
they
you're-
should have looked at
the other
very
ones,
true.
like not like, oh, okay,
Good
well,
point.
looks good here. I'm sure they were fucking bought off, paid off.
The Allies plotted to put estrogen in his food to make him more feminine. That failed. And to avoid food poisoning, he employed young women to taste his food. The royal taste testers.
See, women think you got it rough now.
Mm.
So, but
Idi Amin.
yes, he was probably. I didn't know much about him.
I didn't
So
either
it was
before
pretty.
watching it.
So watching him, or watching that piece was pretty fascinating. So for anyone who doesn't know, he was a fucking dictator in Uganda. Is it Uganda? Uganda.
Uganda.
Okay. And there
That really
was
raises the question: is it better to be feared or loved? What would you pick?
feared.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like Michael Scott in The Office, I want them to fear how much they love me.
His biggest thing was the race baiting, the race wars. That was really his hot target. And I guess after one of the world wars, they had a bunch of Indians that migrated over to Uganda.
It was during British colonization because he fought in the British colony army,
Right.
and the more brutality that he exhibited, he was rewarded and promoted and all this stuff. So at the same time with the British moving people around and creating empire, all of these people from India were left there when the British were finally done, and now they're just there.
Right.
So,
And
this is where we live now.
Yeah, so they've had generations of living there. They had businesses,
Mhm.
and they were a big reason why they even had a really good GDP at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so his bright idea, and also while he was trying to take control, was that he was saying to the fellow Ugandians that the reason why you're living the way you are and you don't have everything is because of these fucking these Indians that
Right.
own
Stirred
all the
up some
bit
shit.
own all the bit. So there was race wars, and pretty much 30 days all of them had to leave or they were gonna die. Yeah,
Pack your
30
shit,
days.
you're
right.
out.
Yep. And
I
then,
couldn't imagine because there were generations.
right,
of
and they
people.
felt like they were
Like
part.
Imagine living in a country for like 7 generations of family.
Yeah.
And you've never known anything else. You were born in there as well. Okay, we look different than everybody
But
else.
there was no issues because they were all unified by that country.
Right.
So there were no issues. There weren't no fucking race.
Used to claim when he first rose to power that he was, the liberator of, the Indian people with Britain's empirical ruling and everything like that. Like all of us are welcome, and then
Right.
then he stirs this shit up.
So tells them
Gets the attention off of him.
Tells them to fucking leave. They all get planes and fucking go all over the place. So then he gives his fucking people all those businesses and stuff, and probably within 6 months, GDP went down to zero.
They didn't have the skills to operate a business
Right.
or understand import export to keep things afloat.
Exactly. Yep.
Nobody was trained, whereas the Indian people had generations of that knowledge.
Yep.
And were doing it after that time.
So now,
you just take. That's like if you own a Ferrari, stick shift.
I
right?
wish.
I can't drive a stick shift.
Right.
Okay. And they look at me and they're like, "You're really disenfranchised, Tyler. We're gonna take this from Will and give it to you." And I'm like, "Oh my God, Ferrari!" And I don't know what I'm doing, and I blow the fucking engine. I'm like, "Oh, this sucks."
Beautiful.
Now it's trash.
Yeah.
It's exactly what happened here.
So things are getting hot and heavy. He's on the hot seat. Okay, losing a little weight because he was,
He's a big boy.
He was a big boy.
He was called Big Daddy or the Gentle Giant.
Yes, he was. Probably that's what Kevin Nash got that name from. Anyway, so he's just like, hey, you know what? Look over there. Let's start a war. And then
with Tanzania, yes, to the south, yes.
Yeah, gets his fucking ass destroyed on that shit.
Well, his soldiers were used to just beating up unarmed civilians. They weren't used to fighting somebody that could fight back.
So fascinating thing. He's the only dictator that's besides the Korean ones, which that's a whole separate. But he did not get assassinated, and he's chilling in Saudi Arabia right now as we speak. Still.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he is. He's in
dead.
exile.
Well, he exiled there, but he's dead.
Oh, is he dead now? Oh shit! I didn't get
he
that
died
memo.
in August 2003.
Oh, he did?
Yes.
Oh, shit, my bad. I thought he was still fucking
Well, yeah,
filming
but
it.
when you watch the episode, they don't tell you that. They're just like, where he lived the rest of his life in exile. In
Oh,
Saudi
yeah.
Arabia, and then they
Oh,
just
okay.
leave you there, and it's
Oh.
like,
But, like,
up until his death,
but he
maybe?
didn't-
No,
but he- okay.
I had to
Well,
look it up
he didn't
because,
die.
yeah,
I mean,
it made it seem...
Yeah, that he was still
He
fucking
wasn't
chilling.
killed by his people or a
I think
military
he just died by
coup.
natural cause, or maybe a heart attack
I
from
think
eating too
so.
many burgers or something. I don't
mean,
fucking know. But yeah, he managed to flee and to Saudi Arabia and just fucking hang out, man.
Yeah.
Just fucking hang out, chill,
Well,
whatever.
yeah, he created that turmoil because when the Tanzanian army was pushing back and then into Uganda, interestingly enough, it was Milton Obote, who was the previous president that Amin staged a coup and overthrew him, went to Tanzania. So a lot of those people were still supporting Obote, and he was saying all these things about Idi Amin. That's why he pushed to Tanzania.
Yeah.
And then when they pushed back and they were destroying him, he's driving around town on a CB radio like, yeah, everything's good. I'm still the boss. Everybody, there's nothing to see here. And then gets on a plane and fucks off to Saudi Arabia, which you should be raising an eyebrow at those folks for taking someone like that in.
They're good people, bud. They're good people.
But he did some fucked up
9/11. Sorry.
He did some fucked up shit while he was in there. There were massacres of soldiers who were the ethnic group of Obote, who was the previous president.
He would go in swimming pools in full-on suits.
Yes.
Which was very weird.
Well,
and let me
he's
tell
a big boy.
I don't care. And let me tell you something.
Even back in the 70s,
They played a
still didn't
video.
wanna...
They played a video of him in a fucking striped suit in the swimming pool. Not the best look. Okay? He wasn't the most fashionable guy. It was not a good look. I gotta say. Hey, don't go in the pool in your suit. But if you're fucking a big boy and you're fat, don't wear stripes. Horizontal stripes.
Why do they call it a swimsuit?
That's not a swimsuit. That is, no.
But yeah, they had mass graves in the forest and bodies dumped into the Nile at some points.
Yeah, standard shit, dude.
Rumors
Nothing
of that
really
start
crazy.
circulating, like how rumors of concentration camps with Hitler. So rumors of these massacres in these barracks of these people were happening. So an American reporter, Nicholas Stroh, investigates with Robert Seidel, who was a professor at a local university. They go to investigate. They drive all the way out to the barracks and never come back.
Yeah.
Stroh's wife shows up. Amin's like, I'm going to open an investigation. We're going to get to the bottom of this. It takes them months to even open one. Then one guy that eventually escaped from Tanzania got back and gave word that, yeah, they showed up. Amin's guys cut them up into pieces, burned their bodies, bundled them all up, and threw them into fucking water.
I mean, pretty standard.
So once that happened, that's when the rest of the world was looking at him, and he's like, and everyone's getting upset. And then he kills an archbishop. Who was it? The murderer of Archbishop Janani Luam strained the domestic support. So that's why he started that war with Tanzania, to be like, okay, we need to unify. Like how you said, after 9/11, all of us were one again. We have one common enemy.
Right.
So for him, it was that distraction of just like, okay, we're going to war. Like, everybody, fight for me. Like, all of a sudden, after being an awful, oppressive dictator that tortured people for fucking 7 to 9 years.
Again, it's this when things are going bad, it's this victim mentality of, look, the reason why you're suffering, the reason why you're poor, the reason why this or that, it's not because of you or even me who's running the show. It's really because of this group of people over here. And,
your scapegoat.
And listen, if you want to have a better life, then take an AK and start killing those people, because they're the reason why that you guys are suffering.
Kind of sounds like how a lot of people in the United States feel about the Mexicans.
Listen, we'll get to that later.
I'm just
okay,
saying,
stick around
that
to the
scapegoat. They're taking our jobs.
Stick around to the end, people, because there's gonna be a hot monologue coming up. But yeah, I feel like out of all of them, he wasn't really it wasn't like a sexy pick. Like he wasn't
and
he's
he
kind
didn't
of
bide his time. He I think ruled the shortest amount of time out of all of them.
Maybe Hitler was shorter.
I don't think so, because it was the early 30s up till 1945. So I think Hitler had a couple years on him.
Okay.
Maybe 2, maybe 1.
Okay.
Not by much, yeah.
Well, did they go? I don't think they went in order of time length.
No.
But I think so. Yeah, he probably had the shortest because Stalin had 40 years. Yeah, so he probably had the shortest. But still, I mean,
But it's interesting, like how you said, it's almost like Black Lives Matter versus Stop Asian Hate, and they're both like, there's
yeah,
not a white person in sight, and here's a ton of racism happening. But you've said it once, you've said it a million times. We don't look at history. We don't want to learn from it. We're gonna keep going.
yeah,
And it's cliche, but history repeats itself. If you don't learn from it, it's gonna happen again.
right.
And these stories of all these different dictators, now some happen around the same time,
Which Netflix produced, by the way.
right? But then, from Hitler to Idi Amin, there's like 30 years in between there, 25, 30 years in between there.
Right.
They follow the same formula over and over again.
Well, who was between that was Stalin, and I'd like to get your thoughts on that because that shook you.
That one startled me the most to how we kind of are right now. Oh, Joseph Stalin, Mr. Misinformation, Disinformation, cancel culture. You can find all of these tactics and strategies straight out of his part of the playbook.
Huh.
He first drew the attention of revolutionary leader Vladimir Lenin when he was in his 20s. Because he was with the rise of the Bolsheviks, he was even, where is it? Excuse me, I've got it right here. He was a crime boss who went by the name Koba, leading both worker strikes and full-on raids, including taking over a steamship in 1906 and attacking a bank stagecoach in 1907, both times acquiring significant sums of cash for Lenin's causes. And he was from Georgia. Gori, Georgia, small village in that country. It's interesting. A lot of these guys don't come from where they end up taking over. Some of them do, but some of them don't. Like Hitler with Austria, Stalin in Georgia. It's adjacent.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, he took the reins from Lenin after the Russian Civil War, led the Soviet Union through its early stages of industrialization, and overseeing the defeat of Nazi Germany in 1945. His big tactic, once he got into power, was rewriting history. We're going to rewrite history. George Orwell said it best. He who controls the past controls the future, which is also a lyric in, Sleep Now in the Fire from Rage Against the Machine. But it's kind of like how we whitewash history now in U.S. history. Like Thanksgiving, when I was taught, was everyone's happy and everything like that. I'm like, we don't get to learn about all the Nats. Like, okay, you don't want to scare people, but it's important to learn that, like, okay, this happened. Like, always kind of be wary. Have one eye open. Not everybody has the best intentions. They need to continuously prove themselves over time. And even then, that might not be good enough. So always have one eye open, which you kind of do. You always have one eye open on people. Every now and then you got to be like, I don't trust that.
When you saw the Ukraine part, because that was part of Stalin's reign, is
the agricultural issues, and they were starving in the Ukraine, and he was like, no, that's not happening here.
Right, but just the fact that, because honestly, and I saw a recent Joe Rogan episode, I forgot who he had on. He had, it was just recent. He had this guy who was like a big economist, but like a geologist or whatever, and he kind of went in depth of like the whole Russia Ukraine thing that no one's talking about.
Not anymore. No one cares anymore.
But I'm just saying. But no one's bringing this aspect is because Russia's doing it again that they did under Stalin, which they're not just taking over Ukraine just to kill people or this ideology that Ukrainians are trying to get rid of the Russians. No, it's because Russia in its entirety, in its country, and it's always been like this. This is one of the biggest things that Stalin faced and why he, even though he lasted 40 years, but one of the biggest struggles he had was they cannot grow shit there at all.
Right.
They have the worst agriculture ever. Because it's
a lot
cold.
of permafrost.
Because it's cold as fuck there. That's number one. But so he went and took over Ukraine and enslaved the people and took over their agriculture. Well, especially back then, their biggest thing was famine, which killed a lot of people. Mm-hmm. But again, we're doing that again because Putin, who took over the same mindset as Stalin, came from one of his fucking army group. I mean, that's a descendant.
It's
pretty
almost
much.
the same
Yeah.
same story.
But-
History repeats itself.
Right,
I know it's cliche,
but
fuck.
no one, even when this shit went down, it had nothing to do with, well, the real reason why Russia's taken over is because of agriculture. That's actually, it's that simple. That's really all it is. And yeah, they'll kill Ukrainians, but they really will enslave them to help produce. They're
Right.
trying to expand, and because the only reason why Russia's even irrelevant is because of their oil money. But outside of that, they got nothing. They got nothing
yeah.
going on.
But then you go. It all belongs to the state, which is you. If you're the tyrant,
Right.
You know what I mean. So
Yeah.
if you do that, you can enrich yourselves in your inner circle, and everybody else kind of fucks off. And the New York Times lead man in Moscow got to sit down and interview Stalin.
Mm-hmm.
Got the opportunity, of course, was so thrilled. Then was bribed and coerced by him, and they're like, "Oh, you heard about the stuff in Ukraine? Well, come on, let's take you on a trip on the train. Let me show you that that's a bunch of nonsense." Same thing with the fake concentration camps. Same thing with what did it mean, dude? That we said that was all this stuff's not happening. Look at how happy everybody is. Like, oh, these massacres? No, that's not going on. Don't worry.
Well, he didn't
about
even
it.
show anybody a trip. He just said, nope, not happening.
It's just not happening.
Yeah.
They all deny. So he takes them through, and it was another staged thing where it's like, look at these Ukrainians. They're doing so well and everything like that. Well, the train doesn't stop right there and keeps going. And then eventually, as they wore on, he started to see what was happening. But then when they get back to Moscow, does he report on it for the rest of the world? Of course not. No. That's not allowed. That's not allowed. Censor everything. There's a lot of interesting things that he censored under his rule, and they are quite silly. Things you can't talk about under Stalin. Individual incomes, price increases, anything involving food shortages or generalized hunger, stats on crime, unemployment, or homelessness, reports of natural or man-made disasters such as earthquakes or plane crashes, news of prison conditions, ads for foreign goods, names of government officials and their spouses, availability of medicine, anything about the architecture of the Kremlin. You get the picture. Robinson Crusoe, banned. Sherlock Holmes, banned. These guys think for themselves. Right. They're detectives. They want to find out the truth. We have to control the truth.
Yep.
This is what you get to see. This is what is happening here. Because if you really look at it, is what they say. When you can shut down channels of information, then you can press one preferred narrative and make that the reality your citizens live in. Sound familiar, folks? You ever posted anything? Even when you were being silly. When we put up that video of when we played Infected on Call of Duty,
mm-hmm.
and I put that on Facebook, I got this little banner underneath it about you-know-what information because the title was Infected.
Right.
So they're like, anything relating to anything, we're gonna put little stamps on it. That's not true. This is misinformation.
We got a couple of those.
Right. This is disinformation. This is partly false.
We have a couple of those on YouTube, especially election ones.
Right. Partly false is another way of saying mostly true, but you get the deal.
What was your biggest shocker? Because I knew about Stalin,
Yeah.
Because one of the rare things when I was in the school was I loved history, especially when it came to war.
Yeah, I was. Yeah.
Like, especially war, but just history in general.
Mm-hmm.
The Roman Empire was probably, to me, one of the most fascinating ones because, honestly, that's kind of, when you look at all these dictators that you're talking about, modern-day dictators, they actually... it's not like they actually are taking that same one from earlier times. Like, for instance, just real quick, the reason why Roman Empire grew so much was actually because of they went a socialist route, meaning that if you were a citizen, they just gave you a house, they just gave you things to keep you calm, quelled.
You will be loyal because look at what you did for me.
They gave you entertainment. They gave you back then they didn't have like movie theaters or something.
Right, no, but there were plays.
Bathhouses were
Coliseum.
really big. Bathhouses back then
were
like
we know how they like that shit.
Right, which is equivalent to like strip clubs nowadays. But and I think Stalin took a lot of that, some of that stuff. So again, it's always history repeating itself. It's a pattern. Anything that these dictators did isn't anything like wow, like wow.
It's
He
the
thought
it's
he
the
thought
playbook.
he thought of that of himself.
Right.
It's not. It's just. Here's really the common thing. A lot of how they became dictators is at some point in their life, they were because they weren't just born into this role, right? At some point, they were living an honest life.
Oh, one of them was.
Yeah, they were living an honest life. They were, in whatever
Well,
honest.
not necessarily. Yeah,
And as honest as they
were
could
poor.
in
They
that
were poor.
country, right?
Yeah.
They were just like a normal, everyday citizen in their country at that time.
Usually,
And then,
in the
and then
military.
anger grew. They saw things that they didn't agree with, and then they just waited for a certain moment.
Yes.
And then that's when they just
The
said,
time to strike is imperative in this.
right. And even though that they would preach and say stuff in their speeches that the people liked, as soon as they hit the power, they fucking reversed it.
Oh yeah, big time.
So what was the censorship your biggest thing from Stalin that like really shook you?
The censorship thing, yes, because of all the stuff that we are not allowed to say, or allowed to say, but with restriction.
Right.
This is how it starts for me, kind of a thing where it's like, and if you push that down enough and pump your narrative up enough, then the majority of people who won't do any research, who don't learn from history, are going to just go along with it like the rest of these people did. Like, all of us sit here and think that we wouldn't fall for Hitler, we wouldn't fall for stuff, we wouldn't fall for any of this stuff, yet y'all go out and vote. I rest my case. But, the Photoshop of him and Lenin was interesting.
Oh yes, I remember.
That part was because at the
that
time
was actually they claimed that was the first
Photoshop
Photoshop ever
in
happened,
history.
and it was pretty damn
pretty good.
Pretty damn good.
They're both sitting on a bench, and what they do is they push them both closer together to make them look like they're real good buddies, because Lenin had just died.
Yeah.
So okay, now there's a transfer of power.
Yeah.
So he's trying to promote this. Look, you can trust me. I was with this guy. We were really tight. Now they were, but towards the end of Lenin's life, he thought that Stalin was going to divide the party. He thought he was getting in too much for himself, and he was going to just run wild with it, which is what happened. So yeah, they bring them closer together. They blow Stalin up a little bit more so that Lenin's a little smaller.
Right.
They smooth his complexion, because I guess he had smallpox, a bout with smallpox as a child, so he had pock marks on his face. They smooth his complexion. You gotta put that filter on, ladies. And then they extend his left arm to match his right, because I guess it was a little bit shorter. Kind of like Shooter McGavin in Happy Gilmore, when he's talking about his jacket. It's a little bit shorter than the right. So that part, to me, was pretty amazing. I mean, the level of censorship that they go through really reminded me of what we're doing right now. Because at the time too, like I said, when I watched this, I had COVID. It was 2020. It was in the height of everything.
Yeah.
And that was when that was really running rampant. Now that a lot of this is sort of finished.
A lot more information has come out.
Right, now people
And
are
we're
starting to
seeing
broaden things out a little bit, which is nice. But, the Stalin regime, if you can call it that, really introduced us to pseudoscience, which is a term we should all be familiar with now. Trust the science, trust the science, trust the science. Well, guess what? The science is going to say what I fucking want it to.
Yep, even the science was... I think he shut down...
The science is going to say what I want it to.
He shut down something of the science community, I remember.
Or just changed it because he was rewriting history. And if you're going to do that, anything current that comes out needs to fit with what we're going with.
Right.
He called it Leninism, because he's going to put it on someone else, but he's the one that's in control of the information that gets out. Interestingly enough, this last week, they were talking about it on Rogan. I don't know if you saw it. Some nutritional study came out. It was absolutely ridiculous. That suggests, and this is what the headline says too, new study suggests that Lucky Charms may be more healthy for you than steak or eggs.
Yes.
Holy Did General Mills do this study? Come on! That's why, you know what? Yeah, smoking cigarettes, is good for your lungs, and drinking alcohol boosts the liver, and staring directly in the sun is good for your eyesight. Like, what's next?
See, and that's the thing.
And people believe it.
That's the thing that always bothers
We
me.
still fall for it.
Is especially like the Beyond Beef people. Like, listen, I don't. If you want to eat that, go right ahead. If you want to believe yourself, Lucky Charms is help. That's fine. Eat it. Electric cars, whatever it is. But then don't like it, and then also try to fit this narrative like that's a better way. It's healthier, it's more economical, whatever the fuck. Because now you're spreading false propaganda at that point.
Right. Which is what a lot of these tyrants did. They're following the playbook because it's for their greed.
But here's an interesting thing with Stalin, and I'm excluding North Korea out of this because it's its own separate thing. But if you look at Saddam Hussein, if you look at Gaddafi, even the Uganda guy, because his people, there was no really no one really was attacking Stalin. They pretty much, for the most part, just took it. Like,
he's the guy, I guess.
Like, because there was even a point with Saddam Hussein where people were like revolting against him, and to a point they actually killed him. The rebels killed him to a point.
Oh right, yeah, at the very end.
At the end, but even Gaddafi to a point. Which, ladies, I'm going to bring that up. But
get the Gaddafi treatment.
So yeah, I thought really also at that time that, and again, but Russia has this weird thing to where no matter how hard things are, they have this proud nationalism, which China still has. Is we're Russian, we're Russian, we're Russian. And again, they went through 40, now, and they're still not even better, but they went through centuries because they allow it. And, and again, they're still propagandized. They don't really have access. I mean, China
to the information you
get
the information we
China
give you.
to a worse degree, but that's all that they know, and that's all they've known for centuries. I mean, think about this: the people today in Russia had Stalin and Putin. They know nothing else.
Right.
Like that's all they know.
Well, how you said that. I mean, with Saddam at the end, but nobody was putting up a front against Stalin, or everybody was just kind of taking it like that. Well, a lot of them followed a similar path where even though you kept your tight circle close and you bought loyalty and things like that, they still didn't leave that up to chance. The generals, for example, on the Great March with Mao in China, were all dead within a few years. Those who fought in Cuba's revolution on behalf of Fidel Castro were dead within 2 years. Stalin's original comrades in the USSR, you get the picture. We know about his history.
Right.
So guess what? You've got to go because you don't fit the narrative.
That's right.
Because you were there with me when we did this kind of thing. So, yeah, it's not a good look for my image. I'm really trying to promote this. But there were a few interesting things. This one was kind of cool because he had several escape attempts. Stalin is said to have once escaped by dressing as a woman. He is often said to have been exiled 6 times in the years before the February Revolution in 1917, managing to escape almost every single time, including a particularly interesting episode in 1909 when he escaped from Soviet dressed as a woman. Similarly to Lenin in 1917 when he was forced to shave and put on a wig to escape from prosecution to Finland. And it's interesting you bring up Putin because in 2019, Stalin's approval in Russia exceeded that of current President Vladimir Putin, with an overwhelming majority of Russians considering him a positive figure in Russian history. This is arguably the result of both Soviet nostalgia and years of whitewashing by Putin's administration.
Beautiful.
Control the truth. You'll be remembered forever. They still bring him fucking flowers at his tomb in front of the Kremlin.
So
he was a great man.
So we're not going to have time to get through all of them because at the end of the day,
watch the docu-series.
You guys need to watch it.
Watch it.
So before I get to the Korean, the fucking whatever the fuck they are, I just want to say real quick.
The Kims.
The Kims. Real quick on Gaddafi, because ladies, you think you've had it rough. I mean, let me just say real quick, the thing that I not liked, but found fascinating about Gaddafi is that he tricked women into thinking or tried. He had this narrative that men and women are equal.
They're the same.
Okay.
Does it sound familiar?
Then he has them in his military and stuff like that, and he did.
But the Amazonian squad,
yeah,
right?
Oh,
They were
yeah.
all chick commandos.
Guess what? He was fucking raping all of them.
Yep.
Had them as sex slaves.
Some as young as 14.
Yep.
It's very Epstein, if you will.
Yeah, I think Epstein really took notes.
Right,
from
he
that,
took one right out of that playbook.
But but just the way that he got the women in was this equal rights, men and women are the same. And he had one woman general out of everybody, and then he had all these women.
Wasn't she the one they were hanging somebody?
Yeah.
And she, to this display of devout loyalty to him.
Yep.
Because his neck wouldn't break and he was struggling. She couldn't take it anymore. She runs all the way down, pulls him down, snaps the neck, and he's like, "That's my girl right there."
He was she was the only one that didn't get raped.
That's my girl.
Maybe
right
she took
there.
it willingly. I don't really know.
She might.
But just
if you're
that.
willing to do that, you're probably willing to spread them.
Just that narrative of the women and men are equal and all this other stuff, and then again the propaganda we're showing. Look we have
women in the military.
Women
look
in
at
the
all
military, but yet they're all getting raped and sex slaved and all this other shit. I just find the irony.
They were calling it his harem. If you're familiar with that term.
So listen, ladies. Like I said, you think you have it rough now? You have. Go ask fucking whatever country he fucking ruled. I don't even know.
Libya.
Well, good luck with that. All right, so
he stayed in touch with his Bedouin roots. Look at
me.
I stay in a tent outside. Look, I'm just like you.
He wore it with him. He wore his tents
pretty
with
much,
him.
yeah.
He wore the tents with him. Yeah. Yeah, maybe he was doing some ayahuasca or whatever the fuck, and then he just fucking rolled around in a tent.
I love you.
I'm just saying. I don't know. But, he just, he could just took his turban off. He had the sheet, and he can make just some sticks. There's his tent.
Well, he went soft at the end, and everybody, they eventually stormed his fucking shit and killed him. They put a knife in his butt.
No, he tried to yes, but the only reason why he went soft was because he saw he was losing power. So he tried to quickly change a narrative to calm the citizens down.
You gotta double down,
because
bro.
Because there was like a revolution going on, and that's when the rebels.
You gotta double down, bro.
No, he tried to get soft.
You make an example. Follow the playbook. Look what happens when you don't follow the playbook.
But one group of people that have followed the playbook and still is in power today are the Kims.
This one baffles me. I don't get it.
Here's what's really baffling. North Korea is still run by a dictator, Kim. I'm just going to call him Kim. I'm not going to keep saying his fucking name. It's stupid. And
I was playing ping pong in Ding Dang.
And again, he's still... I mean, you want to talk about propaganda, isolation. They don't know anything outside of North Korea.
Right.
They do know that the U.S. is a bunch of heterosexual, or homo. I don't know. We're gay.
We're all of it.
We're gay devils,
We're
apparently.
all of it.
To North Korea, we're gay devils.
Yet on Kim Il-sung or Kim Jong-il's birthday, like the star showed up in the sky and double rainbows happened and fucking everything was wonderful that day. Like,
what's really fascinating to me is and even Joe Rogan had that one lady who wasn't bad looking that escaped from North Korea and talked about what's going on inside and how like people day to day live and everything, which I mean, we've seen throughout the years video footage, like people were able to sneak in and, do some sort of stuff, whatever. I mean, listen, you have to have a picture of Kim or his father or
in the house.
In the house. If there's dust on it, guess what? You're fucking dead right then and there.
They pass themselves off as divine.
Right.
We are an extension of God, if not God. And they all have still exhibit... Each dictator exhibited some sort of behavior like that. Like, in World War I, when Hitler claims that he was in that little bunker with his comrades and he heard a voice and a light that said move, and he gets up and then a grenade comes in and he's the only one that lives. It must be God. That it's me. I'm the one. I am the one.
But I find it fascinating that no one has challenged Kim. No one has, and especially America. America has always stuck their nose in other people's affairs
Mm-hmm.
because we're free and everyone else should be free. You know how we had that name for a long time, how we were like the police of the world sort of thing.
And that's following
And-
the playbook too. We consider ourselves liberators,
But-
which a lot of these guys did. I'm freeing the people,
And we
but you're
have-
doing it my
and
way.
we have gone. I mean, we just went through 20 years of fighting war on terror, right?
Right.
Terrorists. We've been involved in every world war, but nobody does anything about. He's not mentioned really. The
There
only
was
time
the
he's
Korean War in the 50s, and then that blew over, and then Vietnam was all the rage.
The only
so-
time that he was mentioned is when he was shooting missiles.
Oh, right,
you know,
underground,
yeah.
like nuclear tests.
But other than that,
Team America, World Police,
But-
that was
but-
the last
but-
time I think I saw.
But again, I'm very fascinated and surprised that no one has really done
Like,
anything.
let's just
And
stop this and help these folks out.
Right, because usually
Because no one really does give a shit if it doesn't benefit you.
that's right. Because what does North Korea have? Nothing.
Nothing.
So hey, let the people.
cares?
But here's the thing, though, and I was thinking about this. Even if the U.S. let's just use U.S. for an example, came in, fucking killed Kim, all the fucking soldiers, whatever, and set the people free or let the
Just wait. Who's gonna be next?
No. That's not it though. They had generations of this.
Keeping it in the family.
But think about their mind. Like they don't know anything else. Like they don't work.
So true.
They don't. They don't do it. They're all weak because they're food deprived.
All right.
They're all like
Fake
they don't
grocery
have
store.
skills. So really, it would be like a vacuum effect where somebody else would take control. And I mean, it's a sticky situation because you want to talk about brainwashed and they're also brainwashed.
Right?
Like,
They think he doesn't. He doesn't produce waste because he's the perfect being. Like his body
But
is
everyone else-
optimal.
yeah.
Has no need for a toilet.
But
he doesn't produce piss or shit.
And everybody else is the enemy. So it's really hard to, even if you were, and I feel bad for them, but it's like even if you were to free them, can they really have a life? Because they couldn't handle it. It'd be like if you.
That's how I feel about all of you when you
It'd
guys
be-
go vote on election.
it would be like a cave-
Please.
okay,
you
we
want to
get-
be
yeah, we
ruled.
get it.
We all want to be ruled, don't we?
It'd be like if a caveman was frozen and you literally thawed him out and you put him in today's modern society. He could not handle it. He couldn't process all this change, right? So that would be like North Korea. If you fucking brought them actual food and brought in, business technology, they couldn't handle that. Like they would, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like to
I
some
mean,
extent, that might
we
be a
haven't
bad
tried,
example,
but,
right?
yeah.
Right, but I'm just saying, I feel like that's what's a difference. Like they,
Kind of like the end of Demolition Man when Dr. Cocteau is gone and he's like, the one dude's flipping out and he's like, what will we do? How do we live? And Stallone's just like, you need to get dirty.
Right.
And you a lot cleaner.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle, you'll figure it out. But we never found out if they figured it out. What if it got worse?
Right.
Because they didn't know what to do.
so I just want to wrap up this theory is that if you guys have been listening or even watched the show, that we are experiencing all of it in a combined way. Our U.S. government is reading the playbook and doing all
They've
these
been doing it the entire
all
time these guys
things
do.
right. The only difference is there's a difference.
There is.
Out of all of them, it was a singular person. We have a group of people.
That's it.
We have a group. And it's not even the government. The government's involved. But then you also
You're
have
the
an
face of it, yeah.
upper echelon of 1% billionaires who also influence on which direction goes.
Let's call
you
them
always
the-
hear George Soros' name.
Right.
He's always in the mix.
Rothschilds, the Rockefellers. You got the bankers. You've got the corporatocracy, let's call it that. Your
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk types, things like of that nature. And then, the government, and then all the distractions.
Yeah.
Like how you said, even with ancient Rome, like, we'll give them the Colosseum, give them stuff to keep their mind off of it.
Yep.
Looks a lot like a football field, doesn't it? Oh my God, team! I fucking.
Yep.
You got to be on the team.
Yep.
Same with these dictators. You better be on the same team, motherfucker.
They read the history books, and you don't.
Right.
And
now they get to rewrite history like Stalin does. They're already doing it.
But listen, they take control of your school systems.
Mm-hmm.
They tell you, with the media, they have full control of that. If anybody thinks Fox News is a alternative, it's not.
No. It's all filtered.
And any other news organization that tries to go against that narrative, they are heavily censored, shut down, demonetized,
right.
you say.
If they can cripple you, they can force you to quit. That's step one.
And again, we had a 20-year war distraction. 9/11 happened. Believe what you want, whether it was legit or not. There's a bunch of questions about that, but we went into war for that. A lot of money was involved for that. And,
Epstein.
You had
all the people that were on that list of the elites
still not out.
Could have been.
Still not out.
We're not going to do that. And
still not out.
No.
Still not out. So
maybe that lady that helped Gaddafi, maybe that's who got into his cell and just helped him.
Yeah.
Pulled him down.
Must
give him a little extra.
Must have been right. So yeah, and again, it's just this compliance. And honestly, this is stuff that I've been preaching at least the past 4 years,
yeah,
4 or 5 years.
That's where you and I really hit a common ground.
I mean, something's not right. I drop bombs on you, and again, I drop bombs. If you watch any episode, I mean, I drop a lot of fucking bombs. Okay, you think
bombs over Baghdad? Baby.
You're afraid of Putin dropping nukes? I mean, I'm dropping them all fucking day on this fucking show. And again, you look it up, and you're just like, and you tell me all the time, you can't. You give me that look, and you're just like,
I'm like. What? And then a day later, I'm like,
son of a bitch.
That's why don't ask questions you don't want answers to. I'm a firm believer in that with you. I feel like I've said it before, like on the show, if we were just fucking around, even when you're just making shit up off the top of your head, all of a sudden it starts to happen. I'm like, oh, when's the world gonna end? You'd be like, 5 seconds, and then all of a sudden a fucking thing. I'm like, why did I ask you this?
Yeah.
Now the asteroid's coming?
And again, yeah, I botched some shit. Yeah,
sure.
Because I mean, perfect. I have a lot of fucking shit in my head. So yeah, I botched some shit. But the core of what I say is fucking what's happening. It's just the reality of it. And I'm not saying you have to, think like the way we do. We do this show is to make fun of a lot of people, but to also just expose the truth for what it is. And not sugarcoat it. And listen, if you
I don't like sweets.
And listen, if you guys like this shit, I just don't want to hear bitching about it. You guys accepted this.
You wanted a master, you got one.
So it is what it is. Like it's a clown show. It really is.
But a lot of people do. They don't want. They either feel like they can't themselves, or they don't want to. And like I said, with the thing with Hitler, it's like here's someone who just says, "Here, I have the answers to all the problems." Where it could be an organization. We've got the thing that's going to fix this. And everyone's just like, boom, immediately go to it, but we haven't even run how this could go.
How many times have we been lied to? How many times are there fraudulent companies like BLM, fucking, Nike, Disney, all that stuff, where you learn about the actual business, and again, we're just like,
even Apple, and all the shit that's going on with the cobalt mines, to produce any lithium-ion battery that we use in all of our devices, all of our electronics.
Tesla.
No one gives a fuck that's happening. We're living off the clandestine empire, and nobody fucking cares anymore.
You all suck Elon Musk's dick because he bought Twitter, and you all suck his dick, especially all you Republicans. You think he's the fucking savior. But yet, how do you think what do you think he's using for his fucking Tesla batteries, which are fucking shit, by the way? But listen, all those companies are mining lithium, but we don't talk about it. No, lithium too. I mean, that's what it is. There's no slavery happening.
Yep.
And
we're all aware of it now, which is what really is unsettling to me.
But look at Netflix. They put a show, How to Become a Tyrant. They literally put a show out for you to fucking watch. And guess what? No one gives a fuck. It could come out. CNN could literally come out and say, hey, listen, here's the truth about COVID. And guess what?
Nobody cared anymore.
Because guess what? No one's even mad at China about it. No one gives a fuck.
No one cares anymore.
Because you know why? We got your fucking Netflix, your TikTok, your fucking whatever the fuck,
Go watch Network from 1976 if you also want another insight onto, a realization or revelation, if you will.
That's why I don't feel sorry for people. I don't. I just don't.
We deserve it.
Because
you've said it before.
As a country,
this is what
we fucking deserve it.
Yep.
Because we've all been fucking fooled. And we do nothing about it.
Yep.
And that's why Trump was so hated. Because it wasn't, you can say all this bullshit, his tweets, he was coming off too strong. No.
He's trying to follow the playbook. Outrage sells.
They didn't want the truth.
Right.
They couldn't handle the truth. He was exposing too much, whether you believe it was inside or not.
That's fine.
That what it is because, listen, the shit that he said, a lot of it is fucking true. Okay? But guess what? A lot of people didn't like that.
Right.
They've been coddled their whole life. They're told that, hey, listen, science doesn't matter. Whatever you believe, that's true.
Yeah.
Everything's okay.
We don't want
Nothing
anyone's feelings to get
here.
hurt. I heard that some teachers are not allowed to grade papers with red pens anymore because it's a little too jarring.
Well, remember Obama. No kid left behind. We'll pass you along through.
Yeah. Just kick the can down the road. It's still litter.
But no. What's our biggest thing? Hey, you know what? There's not enough NFL black coaches.
It's not enough female refs.
You know what? Like, honestly, it's just it's really amazing. And like I said, we deserve. Again, they don't hide it. The shit that I tell you, you can literally Google it. It's not hidden.
Yeah.
It's on the fucking first page.
No one cares.
Anything that you've looked up that you questioned that I said, it's on fucking Google.
It's right there.
It's on Google. It's on fucking Google. Right? Okay. So, like, and Netflix is like, yeah, here's a funny series you can watch. And I watched it, and I'm like, I was disgusted.
It's done very well. If you sat down and listened
Stalin was the biggest thing. Literally.
That was my favorite as well, although Saddam's was pretty intense to watch also. But if
he was a trickster.
Yeah. If you have if you took the time to listen to us talking about it, first of all, thank you very much, and go watch it. Go watch it. Tell us what you think. If you've never seen it, if you've never even heard of it, and this is the first time you're finding out about it, check it out because it's worth a look and try to make some correlations with what you've seen in the last 10 to 20 years within this country or, in our own society or just in the world in general, if you want to look at it that way. And ask questions. It's okay to ask the questions. So that's what you took from it. You took a lot away from it. You know what I took from it? Mustache makes the man. They're all rocking the stash pretty much, except for Idi Amin and the Kims.
Honestly,
but the Kims, that's a genetic thing.
What I took away from it is our government is literally doing the same shit. They're just modern. Oh, yeah. They're just
like you said. It's a network. It's an organization. Yeah. So that way, if one goes down, they've really perfected the playbook.
And it explained the Ukraine war.
Yes. A little bit better.
Because we were even lied to.
Right. We were all like, "What the fuck are we doing over here?"
Which, by the way. It's still, like I said, how I told you it was a big money laundering thing. It is. Yeah. It still is. Yeah. But the real reason why even Russia's even doing it.
Right.
So, and you've heard it first, Russia ain't dropping no fucking nukes.
No, it ain't.
Russia ain't dropping no fucking nukes. Okay? So
enjoy your Netflix.
Get fucking pissed off.
Have a beer.
Yeah.
Yeah, have all your snacks, all your little comforts and warmth and everything like that. And go
have
out
your
into the world
flags out and just fucking
nothing.
ride out. Yeah. Ride out, man. Hopefully we survive. Probably won't.
I'm so apathetic.
I'm over it. I'm fucking over it. I'm sorry. I'm fucking over it. I was more pissed off. It just pissed me off.
Good night, folks.